Perfect. I see we have some people joining. We're going to give it just a moment while some other individuals join, just to get you familiar with the product and kind of what we're using right now. If you do have any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat or the question and answer. We'll make sure to get to that. We're going to wait another moment as we have a few more individuals that will be joining us today. But thank you again for being with us. As I said, we're just going to give it another moment while a few people join. If you do have any questions as we get started, please feel free to put it into the chat or the question and answer, and we'll get back to it as soon as we can. Thank you again for being with us, and just give us, just another moment. Thank you. Perfect. We'll get started. I know we have some more individuals that might join us, but they can trickle on in and hear this wonderful conversation that we are having. So again, thank you for being with us here today. My name is Jordan. I'm an organizer here at NationBuilder, and I'm excited to be a part of this wonderful celebration of giving event that we are hosting today. How today's kind of run of show will go is we'll start off with just a brief introduction from our amazing director of international sales, Irene. Irene will then follow up and give a little bit of an introduction on Nation Builder as a platform, and then also a little bit of a conversation with our three, guests of honor and speakers today. Again, if you have any questions, please feel free to put them into the chat, the question and answer. We'll make sure that we do save some time towards the end of our conversation for a question and answer round. And again, thank you so much for being with us. We're excited for this opportunity, and I'm going to pass it on over to my colleague, Irene. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jordan. Can you all hear me okay? Good. Okay, cool. I was having a bit of connectivity issues a little bit ago, so if you lose me, please let me know in the chat or let Jordan know so I can pause and hopefully we'll get reconnected again, but it looks like I'm good. So yeah, I am so excited to be here with three amazing women who are going to be part of the panel and discussion today that we're going to be having. So just want to thank you all so much for your time and just spending your morning with us. And we're going to spend the next hour or so in discussion and hopefully meeting each other at the end, as Jordan mentioned. And just wanted to kind of make some first introductions about the folks that are going to be speaking today, including myself. I will be facilitating the conversation, and we'll be hearing mostly from the three women here that you see as our speakers. So quick introduction. So as Jordan said, I am the Director of International Sales. I oversee our Asia Pacific market, which mostly comprises our Australian and New Zealand market. And so I have worked closely with our customers in the country of Australia and New Zealand, and just seen some wonderful things that our current customers are doing in the space. And have the pleasure of introducing three of the women here to speak to us a little bit about kind of their experiences in working in the nonprofit space. The three of them together have had a very like wide range of experiences in working in the nonprofit space. Two of them are on our team here at NationBuilder. And so I'm just going to do a quick round of introductions, and then we will just jump into having the discussion to discuss kind of their experience, the world that they have lived in the nonprofit space, kind of going into some things about their roles and being able to really be able to organize using digital tools and the leadership that they've brought to the organizations that they've worked with. And yeah, we'll see what comes of the conversation, but I'm really excited. So first I want to introduce Erica Avellaneda, and she is based in Hobart, Tasmania. And Erica is part of our team here. She's was the Senior Enterprise Account Manager for the APAC region here at NationBuilder. But prior to joining NationBuilder, she was a customer of ours, actually. I shouldn't say customer, more partner. And she started as a community organizer at the local conservation council, where she headed Stop the Trawler campaign, and then worked for Landcare Tasmania. And she learned there how to nurture a growing community, move them to action in both of these roles. And then after 5 years of being a customer and partner using NationBuilder, Erica took a role working with us and now works with the customer engagement team. So that is Erica. And then next we have Ella, who is a Senior Enterprise Account Manager now for our Asia Pacific customers here at NationBuilder. And prior to joining NationBuilder, she was actually a customer as well. She worked for Amnesty International Indonesia for 2 years and built the total digital infrastructure there for supporter engagement, and has helped grow the supporter base of that organization and mobilize volunteers all across the country who are passionate about human rights. So that is Ella. And then next, and certainly not least, we have our lovely Afiqah Rozali here on our panel as well. Afiqah is the Digital Fundraising Officer at Refugee Council of Australia, who is one of our customers here at NationBuilder and has been for several years now. Refugee Council of Australia is a nonprofit organization and the national umbrella body for refugees and people seeking asylum in Australia. And Afiqah has been with the organization officially in her role for just about a year, but she started with the organization as a volunteer back in 2019. So definitely has lots of experience working with that organization. And yeah, so those are the three wonderful women that we have that will be in discussion today, and kind of our session of discussing a handful of different things. But I'm excited to jump in, and I'm really excited to hear from the three of them about their experience, and would love to kick it off with kind of a first question of just the collective experience that I know the three of these women bring to kind of, you know, this conversation. And so would love to just jump in here and ask the first question to the three of you guys. So, you know, having had your roles in the nonprofit space for, you know, the collective many years that the three of you have, I'm curious to hear a little bit about how your roles have been impacted by the power of access to technology, and what has this access to this technology in your roles, like how has that really impacted what you've been able to accomplish, and what has that meant to you in your roles in the times that you've been in the organizations that you've worked in the past? And they could be like current, they could be past. Yeah, so I will ask that first question and would love to hear.
Happy to warm up the mic here. So I'll draw on some memories from the Stop the Trawler campaign. I don't know if any of you guys remember that, but a long time ago, there was this big trawler coming to fish around the east coast of Australia, and it was going to basically, you know, tear up the bottom of our seabed. And that campaign was one that I worked on as a volunteer. And there was two of us running that campaign, which was a nationwide, Australia-wide campaign. And the power of technology helped us to scale with very few resources. And so what we were able to do was grow a supporter base in the span of like 6 months from, you know, like 20 people to 50,000. And we were able to organize about 7 to 10 unique events around the country that were self-organized by the people in those areas. And we were also able to fundraise somewhere around $70,000, which at the time for the little conservation council meant that it could keep existing. So if it hadn't been for technology in that moment, in that key moment in time, and this campaign that was very juicy and very, you know, everyone wanted to participate in it, it's very likely that the council, the conservation council, would have folded because we'd just run out of just run out of funding sources, really. And so technology allowed us to scale our impact to actually drive change, which was stop the trawler. It helped us raise enough funds to keep going until that next funding source came. And it allowed us to grow this incredible community, which was able to self-organize. So that the power of technology in that moment for me was like, okay, this is why I want to work in this space, because, you know, sometimes you can feel like one person that can't do very much. And with technology, we were able to really hit it off and make a big impact.
Yeah, that's so huge. The scalability piece is something that's not, you know, inherently built into a lot of the strategies you think about when folks are trying to like really make that impact. But yeah, I love that you speak to that in the impact of the fundraising, especially, and being able to really just continue like the speed at which you're able to do that too because of technology. So powerful there. Thank you, Erica. Anything else from either Ella or Afiqah?
I'll go next. um, so basically, I think how we were impacted by technology is that we were just able to, what Erica said before, reach people on a much wider scale with limited resources. But also with the pandemic, people were stuck at home and they were looking at their screens more. So we had to learn how to elevate our online approach to connect with our existing and potential donors as well. So with so much competition with other organizations, because they were all doing the same thing, we had to learn how to amp up our skill set and our knowledge as well. And whether that was like allocating more budget to our online infrastructures or revamping our donation pages, or building a more targeted Facebook ad strategy. So I think, yeah, it really just forced us to value how much power online can give to our organization. Yeah. Over to you, Ella.
Thanks, Afiqah. Yeah, no, and I think here the word access is really key. So for those of you who just joined and missed the intro, so I was a NationBuilder customer myself before actually joining NationBuilder. And I worked for Amnesty International in Indonesia, and one of our flagship like campaigns is like something called Write for Rights, which is a letter writing campaign where we get supporters to write to the government. And we held a national level one, highlighting national issues. And prior to like really taking a focus on building digital infrastructures, a lot of our campaigns and activities were based in major cities, in urban areas, whereas Indonesia is an archipelago of 17,000 island with a population of now over 260 million people. So as you can imagine, when you're a small team based in the capital city in Jakarta, if we don't have the digital infrastructures there, our reach to our supporters or potential supporters is extremely limited. So when we, and as Afiqah said, when the pandemic hit, there was a massive shift towards the digital and how can we still move forward with all of our campaigns and our movements and continue to build on that without leaving our laptops, right? Without leaving our homes. And so when we focused on that and built the infrastructure and built the strategy, we saw in the numbers alone of how impactful that was to our movement. We grew the supporter base significantly, almost doubled within a year. Our letter writing campaigns that once only reached, I think, 2,000 people because we were focused in urban areas. When we shift everything to digital, it reached over 12,000. So that's a massive increase, right? And then the under 5,000 actions that were taken the year prior became 17,000 actions that were taken. So access there, it's so like the digital infrastructure here provides access and opportunities for people in remote areas to take actions for the causes that they believe in, even though they don't have to be located in major urban cities. And I think that's really important in building any movement.
Yeah. Thank you for all of that. And I feel like there was something, Afiqah, that you mentioned that kind of stuck out to me, and I want to dig into that a little bit more and hear some more in depth kind of your experiences with this. But you know, we're in a pandemic, and or post pandemic period now, where we've just had to really shift, and I've seen so much of how much this has impacted a lot of our customers in the space. We're supporting folks all around the world in their digital infrastructure. And so, luckily, a lot of them kind of had a lot of these practices in place, and being able to quickly turn to their email lists or turn to the folks that were already opted into receiving communication with them. And so, in a lot of senses, our customers were already pretty ready to be in this place. But, it's again a huge shift in the way that a lot of folks and a lot of our customers are still like engaging with people in person, especially on the political side of things, or even just like really leaning on like in-person events, which has totally just completely gone away in the last 2 years. And so you said something, Afiqah, about like how there's also this added layer of so much competition, and kind of like racing for the same dollars in your donors, because so many people are needing to focus on reaching out to their same people. But there's this huge need for funding because of the fact that all of the strains of the pandemic in the last couple of years, but that you're competing up against all these other nonprofit organizations and other organizations that are kind of strained under the same impact of the pandemic. And so there's something that you said about like elevating your online approach to really being able to reach out to the people that you already had. So I'm curious to dig into that a little bit more. First question I want to ask is, what other kind of changes have you seen around supporter engagement within the time frame of the last couple of years during the pandemic? And how have you been able to overcome some of that? Like a little bit more specifically, would love to hear from you all about either your experience with working with the customers that we have, Erica and Ella, and then other ways that you have been able to really engage the community that you have digitally amidst all of that kind of competition, if you will. I'm not sure if that's really the right word, but it stuck with me when you said it, Afiqah, and I think it's very real. So would love to hear.
I think the main difference that I've seen how our supporters engage with us is just that they have a new willingness to participate in events or activities that are online. At first, it was because of necessity, but I think now people see the ease that online events can bring. So we've had to switch our we hold an annual conference every year, and we had to switch that entirely to online because of the pandemic, and we had to switch it to an online conference, I think pretty late, because the announcements, the timing of it happened pretty late. So we had to adapt really quickly and change everything to an online event. Basically everything had to be shifted online. Our donor events, we had to make sure that there was we will be live streaming these events, or there'll be a recording somewhere. So make sure that people know about these events, can access these events during and after those things. So yeah, I think those were the main things. It's just that they were willing to participate more online, and they embraced the digital communications more because of it. Yeah.
I will speak to a memory of the Refugee Council when I was working with you all before Afiqah, that there was a Refugee Week, and in Refugee Week you all organize events. People can go to events in person, like screenings of movies and all kinds of things. And I was really impressed with you already had a group of people who the previous year had engaged in Refugee Week, and then the ability to quickly create self-organized events at home, in homes, or online. I think that was one of those key things that Irene would allow the Refugee Council to be highly competitive. It was this like, okay, we've always done Refugee Week in person in real life events. How can we now flip that to do it virtually? And yet we don't have all the answers. Let's just let it happen. And because they had the tools in place where people can just create event, put it on a calendar that other people could see and they could RSVP, they were actually able to keep that event, the Refugee Week, that year when COVID hit and everything was new, like Zoom meetings were new, because they were brave enough to try and had already begun with the infrastructure of a calendar on their website that shows all of the events in one place. So yeah, getting started, I would say, already having their one foot in the door with those digital tools is what made them highly competitive and the reason they were able to keep that event going.
Yeah, and a lot of Refugee Week is also about teaching people about refugees. So we had to invest a lot more in building our online resources in terms of the books that people can read, the films that they can watch, the podcasts that they can listen to, and encourage them to share. So it was a very accessible way. It was a very low level ask for people, but also a way for them to be more connected or learn more about refugees in Australia. So yeah, that helped a lot, I think, in building our engagement during Refugee Week.
That's huge. Like a lot of that I'm hearing is this concept of like being able to impact awareness, right? It's not like necessarily our goal of Refugee Week. Maybe there is this, strategy around or a goal around fundraising, but a lot of it is around, we're just trying to raise awareness about refugees in general. How do you do that? I see technology playing such a big role in that too, because everything you mentioned around giving them access to like podcasts and online digital books and things like that, like that's all technology. That's all stuff that's accessible online so much more easily now. To be able to share some of those things to help even measure some of that impact, which is really, really hard to do when you're trying to measure the impact of awareness or growth of awareness, right? So I love that. Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that example. So powerful. Anything else on kind of, pandemic topic and just some of the kind of changes and shifts we've seen. I love the kind of already have the foot in the door on the digital piece because of the ways that a lot of our customers and folks have been organizing digitally, even before 2020 hit, of course. And so it just becomes, a part of just amplifying a lot of that in the midst of this competition, in the midst of like having to be forced to do everything online. But anything else there?
Yeah, I think there was a massive learning curve there, right? And there were definitely a lot of organizations who kind of already had all those infrastructures already there. So they were kind of prepared, or at least semi-prepared, to like go out and make that quick shift. A lot of organizations didn't have that. And, Amnesty Indonesia at the time, even though we had NationBuilder, we hadn't really like leveraged what it could actually do in terms of the digital. So what I think is great is that when the pandemic hit, everyone was keen to just go on this learning curve together. So it's not just the organizations learning how to use the digital infrastructure, but supporters who might have been more like a little bit reluctant. So, oh, why should I join a virtual Zoom event? What even is the point of that? Is that even going to be helpful for me? They had not much of a choice, but it definitely opened up these new possibilities, and everyone was keen to learn, okay, so how can I continue to contribute? something as even like, how do I contribute as a volunteer by doing social shares? A lot of people, especially in Indonesia, were like really uncomfortable with that. You know how to do that. Like, what are recruiter links, you know? So but people were keen. People wanted to learn. And I think in the last 2 years, everyone's a lot more comfortable with digital and kind of going into the unknown. And I see that now as an enterprise account manager here at NationBuilder. I see that with my own customers as well. When we introduce new features, ways to reduce manual work and have things more automated, and introducing things that they might not have been comfortable in the past, they're more open to it now, I think. And that really helps in creating better strategies moving forward and achieving your organizational goals, and increasing, maximizing your outreach to supporters as well. So that's been a huge shift, I think.
Yeah. Thank you, Ella. Yeah, I mean, we're starting to get a little bit more into the details of, like, you bring up social share prompts, even recruiter links. And so kind of segues into my next questions about taking it a little bit more specific NationBuilder wise, since all three of us hopefully are big NationBuilder fans here. I wanted to hear a little bit about kind of the specific NationBuilder impact and some of the strategies that you've used in your current role or roles in the past. And like going back to the scalability piece, Erica, that you talked about, the ability to do that, to the power of technology to scale, which is just so critical, especially in today's, era of going fully digital. Can you, either of you or all of you, speak a little bit to the actual specific kind of NationBuilder strategies and the features that you were able to utilize to impact this scale and affect the scale at which you're, operating? Would love to hear more specifically about that.
Can you guys hear me? There we go. Okay. Yeah, I'll go back to the memory of my campaigning days when I was just beginning to use NationBuilder. It was where do I begin? The thing that allowed us to scale was that using the tool made us think about, if we have something that we would like people to do right now, today, that's not enough. What would we like them to do afterwards? We know that not all of them are going to do the thing that we want them to do today and the thing that we want them to do tomorrow. But what other option could they then do? So I remember drawing on a whiteboard a very big sort of flow chart of, okay, well, we've got supporters in Australia, we've got supporters in other parts of the world. The people in other parts of the world, they can't come to our in real life events. So what can we do for them? After they've signed the petition, we want them to be able to donate, because they can at least keep this thing going. And so because NationBuilder has the website pages that can link from one to another, we were forced to think that way. And that's how I learned to organize that way, because NationBuilder kind of forced me to go, okay, well, after they've landed on this page and they complete signing the petition, then they're going to land on a donation page. And if they do donate, then what is the email that they receive going to say, which might keep them inspired or get them to share it with a friend of theirs. So the big flow chart that I had encompassed sending emails to people who we already had in our nation, and NationBuilder gave us the ability to send mass communications, email blasts. It let us use action pages like petitions and donations, endorsement pages, and link those all together so that a supporter would have a few things that they could do, and it was up to them how much they wanted to do at that particular moment. And in the people section, being able to filter for people who had done, say, a petition and had donated in the last 2 weeks allowed us to go, okay, well, now there's this other kind of group of people emerging who we're going to call them our like really engaged supporters, and we're going to send them a story of one of the fishermen that we got last week, talking about how impactful this trawler is going to, be on his business. And so I think those specific features of being able to send mass communications, linking action pages together, and being able to filter for things that people have already done, it taught me to think about engaging with people really differently. Not just a broadcasting tool that's like, here's the same message to everybody, but rather thinking about who's this person, what have they done with us already, and what are they kind of more likely to do. So specifically, NationBuilder has those tools set up, and they help me learn to community organize just by virtue of having to use the tools and put them together.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, there's a couple things that I hear there from the daisy chaining of the web pages. So being intentional about guiding your supporters through a journey by even something as simple. It sounds simple, although a lot of people don't know the power that this has in literally linking action pages together, right? So like once they sign a petition, land them on a volunteer page. And if they sign up to volunteer, the next thing is land them on a donate page, or maybe the donate's next, or donate always happens after every action, right? Depending on what kind of journey you want to be intentional about, like guiding your folks on. And then the second piece is then taking that intel about how your folks have engaged with you and really, really being strategic and intentional about the communication you're having with them. So kind of hear those twofold things, so powerful. And I think using an all-in-one system like NationBuilder, where you can capture all that data in one place instead of patching together, the different areas where you'll need to bring that in from different systems or spreadsheets or what have you, allows you to do that. So powerful. Those are the two things I heard. Love that. Thank you, Erica. I'm curious to hear from others.
A few years ago, for Refugee Week, we moved towards the theme of food to get people involved in Refugee Week. And then, so we decided to launch Share Meal, Share Story, which is a campaign that bring people together over a shared meal to learn more about the stories and the cultures of refugees. So a few years ago, we leveled up the campaign by creating a digital cookbook. So because we didn't have the resources to print out and distribute physical books, I pitched this is when I was working as a volunteer. I pitched the idea of an e-cookbook. So it's easy for people to just gain access to that information without RCOA having to worry about the logistics of a physical cookbook. So then, so we gathered the refugee stories from our refugee ambassadors and recipes as well that were important to their cultures, and then we put them all in a cookbook. And then we made it available on our website for any donation amount. Then we created a donation page, and then once people enter their details, they get an email with a download link for the book. So it was an easy way for people to get involved, and it was a very low barrier way as well. And since the price was flexible because it was determined by the person itself, it's not a set price, it's just how much they would like to donate. So I think it helped with people who were hesitant because they were financially affected by the pandemic. So it removed the hesitation to get involved and purchase the book. So yeah, it was just a really easy way for people to get involved in Refugee Week from their own home. And it also helped that, with COVID, people were stuck at home and looking for things to do with their time and energy. So yeah, it helped us it boosted the cookbook, and I think we raised over $15,000 from that cookbook in the last year or two. Yeah, so that's how we managed to use NationBuilder to help with one of our campaigns.
I just dropped the link. It's one of my favorite customer stories that we've published. And I think you can see that, right? I dropped that in the chat for anyone that wants to take a look at that story highlighted. So powerful. I know Ella supported the team with this as well. And yeah, I just think it's smart around the downloads too. And the way that you all like saw so much of that impact come in through that engagement of just being creative. And yeah, it's such a great story. Thank you so much for sharing that, Afiqah. I don't know if Ella, you wanted to add anything else in.
Yeah, just in terms of like scalability, like what Eric has already mentioned in terms of the supporter journey, taking that into account, and Afiqah also highlighting leveraging all of the features that NationBuilder has to offer. So like scalability is very much a combination, right, of the tech and the right strategy. And I feel like that's what a lot of our customers have been really focusing on. And in terms of like my own experience with scalability, like we were a small team in Indonesia with very, very big goals to defend human rights and getting people firstly interested in just being involved and just talking about human rights issues. And thinking about the supporter journey, we had NationBuilder and a volunteer sign up page, and we had like people saying, I want to volunteer, I want to volunteer. But really didn't have at the time, at the beginning, the kind of right strategy for them to actually participate. So when the pandemic hit, we thought this was the great opportunity to actually leverage the 15,000 people that already said we want to volunteer, but we don't know how to, especially given that people are separated across different islands. So that was the year that we tested out like a gamification kind of strategy. That's how we leveraged the recruiter links, the recruiter IDs that NationBuilder allows. So when you share your link with your ID and people take action, you're accredited with as being like the recruiter and acknowledged, accredited with bringing people in as a supporter. So that was something that we thought would be like something quite easy for our volunteers to do. It wasn't a massive ask. They can do it on their socials. And we gave them all of the instructions. And we also set up like the leaderboards to show like who's in the top 10. And we did that for, I think, a total of 8 weeks. And it was clear that all of these tools and all of these journeys were working, and they were working really well. So we actually had, I can't remember the exact number, I think it was like around 200 active volunteers who were sharing all of these action pages with their IDs. And I think it was across, I think it was like over 20 cities. And if you know the map of Indonesia, it's truly from, it's massive, but it was truly from the west to the east, to the far east in Papua. Groups who would normally never have been able to do that were able to take action and organize locally. And that was another thing we thought about. There's mobilizing your volunteers, but also thinking about how to organize digitally as well. So that was equally as important.
Yeah, so great, Ella. Recruiter links, it's like my favorite, probably one of my favorite features of NationBuilder. I can talk so much about the amazing creative things that I've seen our customers utilize it for. So I'm so happy it's come up in this conversation more than once. I'm super pumped about that. Yeah, that's so awesome. I love hearing all of your collective kind of experience and the ways that y'all have managed to create communities within your organizations, and the things that you've seen our customers do, and Afiqah for our COA. And yeah, I mean, it's just been so good to hear. We have just a few minutes left, so I want to ask one last question, just to put it out there. I think would be so great to hear from the three of you before we jump into the questions. So we do have a few more minutes left for this one, but what is one piece of advice that you would give to somebody that's hoping to start a nonprofit or an NGO and hoping to create change in their community? What is one piece of advice that you would give? If you could, and it could be anything. It could be NationBuilder related. It can not be anything. I would love to hear from the three of you and the wisdom that you all carry.
I think from the very beginning, identify key players or people or communities and build relationships with them to leverage your organization. A lot of nonprofits are limited by budget or staff or time or all of the above. So we heavily rely on collaborative efforts to not just make a change, but to make a long-lasting change. And I also feel like it increases your brand value if you are associated with other well-known names in the sector or the work that you're doing. And since so much of nonprofit work is raising funds from the public, I think it goes a long way in building the trust that people have in your organization. So yeah, I think from the very beginning when I started Recoa, it was a lot of we rely heavily on working with other organizations in the same sector to do the work that we do, because the work that we do is so big and it requires the efforts of so many people over a prolonged period of time. So yeah, I think that's the one thing that I would say to anyone who wants to start a nonprofit.
I would say that it's easy to look around and see big not-for-profits and see, maybe thousands of people that follow a particular brand and feel like that is success and that is the only avenue to, changing something in the world. And I would say differentiate between quantity and quality of a community. So sometimes there's not-for-profits, they've been around for a long time and they have the resources and maybe they've collaborated, like Afiqah said, over years. And so they're able to have this huge quantity of people, like we did with the Stop the Trawler campaign, because it was it was a moment in time and this huge community grew. That was how we wanted that particular campaign and community to run. Then there's communities which have a lot of depth, but they don't have big numbers. And so if you can identify first what kind of community you're after, it might not be a giant one. It might be a small one with really engaged few people, and never underestimate the power and the strength of a few people that are highly engaged to actually affect some kind of change. So whether you have 10 people on a mailing list, or all you have is your partner and one other friend who cares about your cause, or you have 300,000 people on an email list, there's always quantity and there's quality, and defining which one of those you want to work on will help you be more efficient in your work.
Yeah, that's huge. I definitely want to let Ella jump in, but I feel like I have to comment on that, Erica. I know that we've done and seen some kind of initial studies of like word of mouth type of impact of a lot of nonprofit organizations. And one of the my favorite quotes that like sticks with me that I like to share with people is a lot of people don't know this, but there's such a small percentage of an organization's whose sole word of mouth channel comes from such a small percentage of their engaged supporters. Something as small as 5% is like what a lot of folks see is to be the sole word of mouth channel for like everything that they're doing. And it's those 5% that you have to identify. Those are the quality, right, Erica? Like those are the folks you need to identify, because they have so much power when and you can identify who those top supporters are, those 5%. There's just so much of an impact you can make in getting them to become the leaders and do more, because they're obviously the ones that care the most. They're the ones that want to be involved and they want to be the leaders. Thank you so much for that. Yep, find your 5%. There you go. Ella?
Yeah, I think we have a kind of a recurring theme here, which is great, because I think all of us here recognize the power of that 5%, right? Which can be such an incredible force in growing your organization, but ultimately in getting the message out. So I think, yeah, so just, I suppose, like, to summarize as well, just touching on what Erica, Afiqah, and Irene have said, my advice is to always focus on your strategy and try to find a good balance between mobilizing and organizing. So I think differentiating the two is actually key in determining your success and how, depending on how you want to define that success. But I think a lot of movements often focus on the mobilizing, getting as many people out there, sharing the socials, doing the fundraising, peer-to-peer fundraising, for example. But I think organizing, equipping, finding that 5%, equipping your really dedicated supporters with the right tools so that they can do the work for you in their own communities, that is really key to really solidifying your movement. So yeah, that's what I guess what I'll have to say.
Yeah, that was so great. I'm so glad we kind of found in a similar theme and to talk through that. Thank you all so much. This has been so great. Definitely, I think, Jordan, you put in there if there's questions from anybody in the group that wanted to ask anything specifically, this is your chance. Or if not, that's okay. But I think we might have gotten some questions in, maybe, Jordan.
Definitely, yeah. I just received a direct message question, so thank you for sharing that. If you do have any other questions, please feel free to drop them down below. But I think this question is incredibly important as well. So we did beat, or we were asked, basically, can you define the different digital tools that go along with NationBuilder? Obviously, the work that you do and engaging has been prevalent in this conversation, but can you talk about the other main digital tools that you do provide?
Yeah, such a good question. And I realized that I was supposed to actually share a little bit about what NationBuilder is at the top of this, and I got so excited to jump into the actual panel that I didn't get to it. And so this is a great opportunity for me to share that, because we're like talking about something, and I'm aware that there's probably a few folks that might not necessarily be familiar with our tools. And so essentially, yeah, we touched on a few of the things today, but as you can probably kind of gain from the conversation we had, NationBuilder is a software. It's an all-in-one community engagement platform, or leadership software is something that we like to also call ourselves. And basically all the tools that you would need, digital tools, to run a nonprofit, or basically move a group of folks that you have, like-minded folks, a community, to take some sort of action and have a place where you can manage those relationships at scale. NationBuilder has the digital tools for you to be able to do that. And so what that means is you can have a full, a website hosted on NationBuilder. It's our own proprietary content management system where you can have your own full website, where you're daisy chaining actions, where you're getting folks to volunteer, to maybe sign a petition, to to donate, attend an event, RSVP to an event, all of the things that you would need from a front-facing website, fully hosted on NationBuilder. That's a part of the tool set. All of that gets integrated into a CRM where you can manage all of your folks, from a very passive Twitter follower all the way down to your biggest donor or your volunteers, all live in the database, so you can keep track and manage all those folks. We have a full communication suite, so you can email blast or one-to-one email all of your supporters in one place. And I think Erica touched on being able to take all of the things that that they've done. So if they've signed a petition or attended an event, you can easily filter for that in the database and send them a message that's really relevant to the way that they've engaged with you. And then we have a full donation kind of platform where you can fundraise on NationBuilder. You can spin up a donation page, connect your bank account, and start raising funds for your organization right away. So all those core components that you need to be able to really keep track of everything that you're doing as a nonprofit, or just as a leader in your community trying to make change, you should be able to do all of that. And you can with the tools of NationBuilder. That's all built into one system. So you can focus on doing the work, advancing the work that you're doing, instead of operating off of spreadsheets or multiple different systems to do all the things that I mentioned. So that's essentially, it's essentially what NationBuilder is as a software in a nutshell. Thank you for that question that came in and give me the opportunity to share that since I didn't do that at the top. But yeah, great question. Anything else? Or
Perfect.
what did I miss? Anything else I missed?
We did just get another question.
Cool.
So this one is specific about different customers and different use cases that we have in Australia and New Zealand. So this person writes, they're with a religious organization. Do we just work with more of the nonprofits, or do we work in a variety of different options? So I'll pass that back on to you, Irene.
Yeah,
Anyone
sure.
else comment?
Yeah, it's a good question. We work with many, many different customers across many different use cases. I would say no two organization is using NationBuilder exactly the same. And so it's what I love about NationBuilder. It's a tool set that is very flexible in terms of what your strategy might be, because everyone's strategy for an organization is going to be different. You're dealing with different organizations or different communities and different folks all the time. And so, classic use cases, nonprofit sector is huge because of the fact that, all the things that I mentioned, most nonprofits are doing things like communicating via email, need a website, need fundraising tools, and having, the ability to have all that in one place. So the nonprofit advocacy space is a big bucket of like the types of customers we serve. There's a big bucket of political customers, whether they're parties or campaigns. And then in the umbrella and bucket of nonprofit, it's like all different sorts of like nonprofit organizations, whether it's in the religious kind of use case or environmental or, and we are very, very intentionally and fiercely nonprofit or nonpartisan. And so we serve all communities. It's one of our core values. And so regardless of what, you're trying to do around engaging your community, we will be there to allow you to do what you need to do on our software. And so we are nonpartisan. And then what else am I missing? So yeah, there's a whole host of other kind of different sorts of customer use cases or customers that are using us in terms of like the governmental space. We have folks in the corporate space as well, trade-based associations, labor unions. So a whole, array of different sorts of customers, but all of them are essentially, engaging a community and really trying to keep track of them, building relationships with them at scale and communicating with them, et cetera. So another great question. And I think I covered most of that. I hope that answered the question.
Definitely did. Perfect. And we do have one last question. It's just about, it says, we're a smaller organization. We're hoping to grow. What is the support level at NationBuilder? Will you provide assistance to help us grow and help engage our community?
Yeah, I love that. We have so many resources to support our customers depending on, and it's, from all different levels. So NationBuilder has many different plan types. So depending on the size of your organization and your specific needs and budget, we have several different plans to support you. And the thing I love about NationBuilder is regardless of what plan you're on, you do have, a lot of support from both our team. We have a whole library of documentation on our website that's public. I'm constantly using it all the time. There's so many features of NationBuilder that, still none of us are experts because there's always so many things that are evolving and so many different aspects and features of the platform. And so we have a whole documentation of almost every single, if not every single feature of NationBuilder and a how-to of how to use that. And so really, even though it's a self-service plan that you might be on to start, you have a lot of resources to support that. And we also have an onboarding team to help support you in your initial kind of start on NationBuilder. And Erica's part of that team. And so we are dedicated to helping customers get up to speed where they need to be, provide you all the resources that you need. And then on the enterprise level, if you are like a large organization on one of our enterprise plans, we have dedicated account management support, which Ella is one of our senior enterprise account managers that works high level on your strategy and really helps you be successful in kind of applying all the strategies that you have to the software. So that's the different support levels that we have, both documentation in our library and then human support. And then we have tech support as well. So we have a full tech support team that's available via chat and email support. They will help all of our customers regardless of plan type if you run into any technical issues, of course. So those are the different levels of support. Anything else that I'm missing there, Ella or Erica?
I think I'll just add to that. Definitely, as Irene mentioned, a lot of documentation that you can help educate yourselves. And there's also recorded webinars. So if you want to do specific things, they're all available publicly on our website. And we also have a NationBuilder intro course that is really good if you're just starting off a NationBuilder and you want to understand how everything works. That's a really good place to start as well, to help you and your team be a bit more familiar with all of our tools.
Great point. Thank you, Ella. Cool.
Perfect. Well, I just wanted to also take a quick moment to thank everyone for, coming today and being a part of this, and specifically thank you to our amazing speakers, Afiqah, Ella, and Erica, and our amazing host, Irene, for being able to help us with this and really monitor this amazing conversation where we can talk a little bit more about NationBuilder and the impacts of digital organizing and, organizing in general, and the impacts that we can make on different communities. We do have the ability to have a quick little networking session. If you are available, please feel free. What we'll do is we'll just kind of be pushed back into that boarding. And when we go in, you can go onto different tables, and you can kind of talk with us and answer any questions you might have on a more one-to-one basis. Or, feel free to also just reach back out to us. But again, thank you all for being a part of this amazing, time today. And if anyone who is listening has any additional questions, we will be moving into that networking space, which will be around for about 30 minutes. So thank you all so much.
Thank you, Jordan. Thank you all. Hope to see you in a bit.